Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at how to configure a CIsco ISE distributed deployment. This video is part of my CCIE Security Labs series, and it covers pretty much 4.1 of the CCIE Security 6.0 blueprint. There is also other areas that may be covered as well. So we'll just start off. I'm not going to go into too much detail about distributed deployments, but I will give you an overview and kind of show you what we're going to be doing today for those that want to follow along. So if we just take a quick look at the CIsco ISE distributed deployment, there's a few ways to separate services, or what we like to call personas. A way to provide high availability in the ISE deployment is to use to deploy a distributed deployment. The available nodes are policy admin node, monitoring node, policy service node, and PX grid node. So these are the different nodes that can be kind of separated as part of your distributed deployment. The different types of distributed deployment models that exist based on organizational requirements. So depending on a number of devices maybe that are authenticating to the network, or depending on what sort of services will essentially determine the way you deploy ISE in a distributed manner. I'm not going to cover all those now. The main focus of this video is to get into the demonstration, but I have included a link at the end of this presentation so you can visit that at your own desire. So in the lab environment today, we have a primary PAN, primary MNT, we've got one policy service node, we've got a secondary PAN, and we've got a secondary MNT. So these are separated across two fictitious DCs, a DC1 and DC2. As what we'd normally have, in fact, is we'd have another PSN sat in DC2 for true high availability of authentication, but I've just not had the time to spin up another node. It takes approximately about 40 minutes to spin up and configure another node in VMware. So we're just going to work with what we've got today, which is these devices, which should be sufficient enough to give you an understanding and show you how a distributed deployment typically works. So as I say, I got a link here in the presentation that you can feel free to visit, based on ISE 2.4, but it should be relevant for newer versions as well. So we'll get started with our demonstration, and what we're going to start off with today is we're going to start off by first accessing the primary policy admin node, or what will be the primary policy admin node. We'll generate CSR, or certificate signing request, for that. We'll get that signed by our internal CA. We'll also do the same for the other 4 nodes as well, and then we'll look at how we can start joining those to the deployment. So we'll start off with the first node, which is 168.99.150, and these are fresh as well, so I've not done anything on these, so it's essentially like a new deployment. So we just access the GUI, and as I say, the first thing we want to do is generate certificate signing requests so that we can get these nodes signed. So if we just go across to administration, certificates, and then down to certificate signing requests. What you can do as well, in fact, is you can either generate the CSRs for each node individually by accessing each node individually, or you can generate the CSRs for each of the devices once you join them to the deployment. So what we'll do is we'll just attempt to sign this device first, and then we can try see whether we can do the other method as well. So we'll just click with start with generate certificate signing request, or CSR, and then you can select the usage for the CSR, the certificate. So if this device is only going to be serving admin tasks, for instance, you can just get an admin certificate, and likewise if it's going to be serving EAT requests, you can get a certificate for that, or PXGrid, etc, etc. We'll just leave this as multi-use for now, so you can see here as well you get a breakdown of the services. We're not going to go with a wildcard because we're not generating a wildcard, and here you can see the nodes or node that we can generate the CSR for. And again, as I said, if we were to join all the devices to the deployment first, essentially what we would have is a list of all the devices available where we could generate the CSRs for in here. Obviously we've not done that, this is a fresh install, so we're only going to see the ISE primary pan, or what will be the ISE primary pan available. So we'll select that, and what it's going to do is it's going to use the common name unless you tell it otherwise in the common name, so that's fine. So that will be the ISE PPAN or primary pan. You can fill out all these details here, so we'll just say for this demonstration we'll just say network Wizkid demo. Let's say UK, and then in the subject alternative name you can add the DNS name as well, or IP address, depending on your organizational needs. I'm going to go ahead and add the DNS name here, so this is going to be ISE-PPAN .networkwizkid.com. I'll just copy that because we need to make sure these entries are in the DNS as well, and we also have PTR or reverse lookups configured for these as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll generate that, and that's successfully generated, so we'll export that. You can see that's exported now. So if we just open that with, let's see, Notepad, we got the certificate here, so we'll just copy this, and then what we also do is we just go to on ISE, if we just go to system certificates, right now you can see that we have a default self-signed certificate for this device. So what we'll do is once we import the new certificate, once it's been signed by our CA, this will restart services and we should be able to see the new certificate. And we can also verify that here. So if we just click on certificate, you can see that it's issued to and it's issued by the same as well, so we can see that it's signed by itself essentially, and we don't have a certificate path. So we'll get that signed now, so let's go over to our internal CA. We'll request a certificate, advanced certificate request. We'll just paste the certificate request in there, This is going to be for a web server, and we'll just submit that. So what we can do is we'll download the base 64. So if we just download the certificate, and then if we open that now, we can see that it's been issued by our internal CA. It's issued to our ISE node, and if we click on details, we can see in our SAM field we've got the DNS name here as well. So that's great. And you can also see now we've got the certificate path as well. So we'll just click OK on that, and then what we'll do is we'll go back to ISE, select import, and then what we'll do is we'll sorry, not there. So if we go to not system certificates, ignore that. If we go to certificate signing request and we click on that CSR that we generated and we click bind certificate, now we can choose the file. And if I just go to if I can find it, so it's certainly free. Doesn't help when I've got so many certificates. So we'll just call this ISE primary pan. We'll leave validate extensions, and all that's going to do is it's going to validate the certificate extensions. And then now we need to select the usage for this certificate, as I mentioned earlier, because we selected multi-use. For each one of these, your ticket will give you like a little pop-up box that you need to press OK on. A little bit annoying, but is what it is. So we'll just click admin, and so there you go. So we just click OK. We also want to enable it for EAP, let's just say, and we'll leave it as that. Actually, we don't need anything else. So we'll submit that, and as I said before, what this will do is it will cause the ISE node to restart the services. So again, we'll just proceed with that and press yes. And also there's a note here just to make sure that the certificate chain is imported under the trusted certificates. So what we'll do is I think I already downloaded the chain here. Let me just check. But what I can do anyway is I can download what that means is to make sure the trust is there, we need to ensure that the internal CA certificate is also added to the trusted certificate store. We can go to import, and I think I already have it somewhere. We don't want to request certificate. Let's download a certificate here. So we'll download the CA certificate, as I said. We'll download it as base 64, and then what we'll do is we'll add this in here now. So for, don't know when I've got so many different certificates, so we'll call this CA server root certificate. We'll trust for authentication with syslog, let's just say, and also with Cisco services, let's just say. Go ahead and save that, and now we should now be able to, so if we have a look there, we can see our CA certificate there. So again, now we'll go back to certificate signing request, we'll bind a certificate, and if I can remember which one it was free as far as I remember, and we called this ISE primary pan. Again, we'll select admin and EAP, and then we'll submit that, and there you go. Now it lets you do it, so you can see that the system's now going to restart, and it'll log us out of the user interface until the system has or the services have restarted, and we should be able to then see the new certificate applied here. As you can see again, we can see it's just a self-signed certificate that's assigned at the moment. So that was a good refresh for me actually, because that's been a little while since I've done that. So it's been nice to see the errors you may encounter if you try to do things a certain way. So hopefully, as part of the training, as we're all training for, or at least those that are watching this video, and myself are training for the CCIE security, you know, hopefully that has been useful so far. So we're just waiting now till the services restart, and then we'll proceed. We can actually, if you're just waiting looking at the user interface, we can actually log into the CLI if you enabled SSH for the node, and you can check the status. So let's just do that now. So if I just quickly open the CLI to this particular node, let's just quickly let's just quickly add a device. So ISE node 99.150 to SSH. So let's just connect to this device now. Okay, so now we're on. So if we just do a show application status ISE, we should be able to see an output of the services. So just take a few seconds to load. So as you can see now it's loaded, so I'll just press more, then we can scroll up and see what's going on. So we can see everything that's running, initializing and disabled. So essentially what we want to see for application server is running, because that's going to allow us to access the UI. So while that's still initializing, we're not going to be able to access the UI, so we'll just give that a few minutes to come back into play, and then we can try that. And while we're doing that, let's while we're waiting for that, let's add this IP address to DNS, because we're going to need part of the requirement for adding devices to a distributed deployment is that we need to have the DNS entries available, and we also need the PTR records configured as well. So if we just go to DNS, where are you? There you are. And if we just go now to add a new device, and we'll add this on this this demo server that we're using. So we'll just right click new host, A or quad A, and then we'll do IP address 192.168.99.150, and we'll give this the ISE pan.wizkid.com, and we can create the PTR here, as I said, which we'll need as well. So we'll add that, and that's being created as well. So we should be able to see once we press done in the PTRs. Where is it? I need to give it a refresh there. There we go. So you can see it there now. That's being placed in there. So that's good. And we'll just refresh this. And if this is not back yet, we'll also do the same with the DNS for the remaining nodes while we wait. Okay, so now we can see the application server is running, which is good. So let's just minimize this and refresh this. So as you can see, we get a privacy area again. If our internal root CA was added to this browser, we wouldn't get that now that it's signed properly. But anyway, let's proceed and let's check the certificate. So now we can see that's been issued by our internal root CA to our policy admin node. All the details that we looked at before, and now we can see that we've got the certificate path in place, which is good. So now we'll log back in, and while we're actually at this point, let's add the remaining nodes into DNS. So this one is going to be ISE primary MNT. We'll give it 192.168.99.151. Create the PTR for that. Let's add in the PAN, or the PSN rather. PSN 192.168.99.152. Okay, and we need entries for a new subnet as well actually, so I need to add a new zone for reverse lookup. So we'll just quickly do this, and the network ID is 192.168.100, so that's fine. So next on that, yeah, that doesn't matter, we can leave that for this demo. So now we create a new lookup zone for what we need for the new subnets in the fictitious DC2. So we'll just add the ISE secondary policy admin node, or what will be that. So we'll do ISE SPAN, and it's 192.168.100.150. Add the PTR as well. That's successful. Now if you don't create a reverse lookup zone, it's not going to allow you to create that PTR record. You'll have to do that manually. The last node is ISE SMNT, so secondary MNT 192.168.100.151. I'll add that in there as well. So now we're good. All nodes DNS wise are added to our server now. So let's go on to our ISE node now, and let's go to administration and deployment. And as you can see, this node is in standalone mode. To register other nodes, you must first edit the node and change its admin role to primary. So that's exactly what we're going to do now, because as you can see, we can't register anything at the minute. You can see in our deployment we've only got the node that we're on now, so we'll edit this. And as you can see here, we have the node as standby, so we'll change this to primary, and as you can see, that's changed there to role primary. It's not standalone as soon as I press save. And now this gives us the option to enable what roles we want, or what personas we want to use on this particular device. So we're not going to use monitoring because we've got a separate node for that, so we can turn that off. And we're not going to use the policy service node because we have a separate node for that, so we'll turn that off as well. So we'll just go ahead and press save because we're only going to use this as a PAN. And as you can see, that's a good point in fact. So when you try and save that, if you just try select admin, because you need a monitoring node to begin with, you have no option but to keep the monitoring enabled. So as you can see, that's going to be primary regardless. You can't change that to secondary because there's no else in the deployment. So once you've added the monitoring node, you can then go back into this and turn this off. So we'll just go ahead and press save on that. Okay, so there we go. So now what we do is we get a notification just to tell us that it's been updated successfully, and in order to apply that, it's just going to again restart the services. And I think it gives us a notification that's going to take about 10 minutes to do. So again, if we just head back to our CLI on the node, we can just up arrow show application status again, and we can just monitor the status of the services. So we should see application server return back to initializing. So at the minute we can't see that yet, so that's still showing as running, but we have got certificate authority service which is initializing. And if we just go down, that's it. So we'll just give this a few minutes to, or at least 10 minutes. We'll return in 10 minutes once this node is back up and running and operating. So it looks like our application server is back now, so we will go ahead and log back into our node. Now if we go to deployment again, so administration deployment, you can see that it's totally different now, and we have got the register button. So we'll click that and we'll add in the FQDN of the first node that we want to add. So it's going to be the primary monitoring node. So it's ispmnt.network wizkid.com. Enter the username and the password that was created for the device, and then let's click next. So we can see here now it gives you a warning with the certificate, because obviously we've not signed that node yet, and basically as we add this to the deployment, or if we want to add this to deployment now, we need to import that certificate in order to carry it on. So we'll just do that, and then we can always sign it later. And the reason I'm doing this is so that I can show you the other way of signing the nodes as well. So we'll just do that, and now it's going to start registering and bringing that node into this deployment. So that does take a minute or two, and then now we get on to step 2 of this device. So we can see we've got the host name, the IP address of the device, and all that's possible through DNS. Now we need to give this device a role. So we don't want it to be admin, because we've already got the primary admin and we've got a secondary admin that we're going to use. So we'll keep this as not admin at the minute, and you can see it blocks out the role for secondary because it's got no choice to be secondary if it was an admin node, because the current device we're on is the primary. Monitoring, we're not going to have it as monitoring. In fact, we are going to have it as monitoring because this is the monitoring node. So we can only have this as let's see if we can change this to primary now. And then we're not going to use policy service node. So if we add this to primary and save that, that's essentially saying that this node is only going to be operating as a MNT, and the role is going to be primary. So I was going to say that you can't select the primary first, you must save it as secondary and then come back in once you've changed the PAN. But you can actually assign the role of the monitoring node as primary, and then the policy admin node that has the current role of monitoring will be changed. So we can take a look at that once this is saved. Okay, so as with everything, the node's being registered and the application server will restart. So you can see here now that we've got the ISE primary MNT. We can see the persona is monitoring, and we can see that the node status, it's not synchronized yet, that's in progress, and we can see that the role is primary monitoring node. Now if we go back into the primary pan, we can see that the monitoring role has been changed to secondary automatically, because obviously we can only have one primary, so that's good. And now, because we're not going to be using monitoring on this pan, we can just totally take that off and save that. So again, what that's going to do is going to restart the services, as you can see, but it's giving us a warning that there's a current sync in progress for the primary MNT, so we need to wait for that. So we'll just go back onto our deployment, and what we'll do is we'll add in the other nodes as well. So we'll add the PSN now, so it's ISE PSN Wizkid.com, username and password again for that node, and then we'll add that in. And again, we get the same warning because it's self-signed certificate. We've not accessed these devices before, so let's just register that. Okay, and now again we select the roles, or the personas rather. So it's a PSN only, so we only need the policy service. We can select a node group, but because it's the only PSN, we've not created any, so it's not going to be added to any node group. So we'll leave that as it is. Enable session services. So we need that on for you know, authentication, etc. And we'll leave profiling on as well to profile the devices. We don't need any of these other stuff. That's for TAC hacks. We've got SXP, Fortress Sec. We've obviously got the threat-centric NAC and the passive ID, as well as PS Grid for sharing with the other CIsco capable devices. So we'll just go ahead now and we'll submit that. And then we'll add the last two nodes, which are from our fictitious DC2, so they'll be the secondary nodes, so the secondary policy admin node and the secondary monitoring node. So again, register again, same process. So this one is ISE span network Wizkid.com. Again, we get the warning, proceed once you've checked that, to import. And this is the admin node, so this is going to be the secondary one, admin only, so let's go ahead and submit that. Okay, so same process, and then with the last node we'll add in, so ISE SMNT, or secondary MNT network Wizkid.com, and we'll add that one in as well. Please install the target machines operational. So it looks like we've got some troubleshooting to do because we can't get to this one, so we can't contact that one. So let's quickly look at this node. So can we access it? Let's just have a look. span, no, it's MNT in it, secondary MNT. 192.168, 100.151. Okay, let's log into that. Okay, let's also ping that. 192.168, 100.151. Okay, so we can ping that. Obviously we can reach it as well. So let's just do a short application status ISE. Let's see what the result of that is. And then while we're waiting for that to output, let's just check our DNS entries. So we've got, let's refresh this. So we've got the IP address in there, so the reverse lookup for ISE-SMNT, networkwizkid.com. Let's check the forward lookup zone, and let's refresh that as well. So ISE, yeah, so all looks good there. So let's have a look at the status of the services while these load. We can also try again. So again, it's saying it's unable to contact it. Please just have a look and see whether the machine's operational. It's taking a while to output the application status, so this device actually may need a reboot, but we'll see. Hopefully it does output what we need to see. Okay, it doesn't look like this is going to output for whatever reason, so what I'm going to do on ESXi is just give this system a quick reboot and see if we can get this one back up. So I've just give that a reboot now, so let's just see when this comes back up. Okay, so it looks like that's just coming back up now. So let's just try and reconnect to this. And as always, we're going to have to wait until the all the services start before we can proceed with adding this device. Let's see if we can issue the command now. Okay, so we have got the output now, which is an improvement. So we can see that a lot of services are not running yet, so we'll have to wait until those services are up and running. So we'll give that a few minutes, and then we'll try to add it to the deployment again. So a quick look at the application status again, and we can see now that the application server is initializing, and we can see that other the state of other services have also come up and show now as running as well. So we'll just give it a few more minutes for the initialization to finish of the application server, and then we'll try and add this last node into the distributed deployment. So I've just run some checks in the background, and it looks like for whatever reason there was an issue with the application server starting on the secondary MNT node. So what I've done is I've just, for the purpose of demonstration, just powered off the policy service node that we added earlier on. And what we'll do is we'll work from the policy admin nodes and the monitoring nodes. So we'll just go ahead now and add the secondary MNT. And the same process, so we just import that in. And we just give that a moment to register. So it looks like we've got a communication failure with the node, so we'll just go ahead and we'll try that again. Okay, so now we can see that the device is, well, in the process of being added. So this is going to be the secondary MNT. So we'll just remove the admin role. We'll keep monitoring on, but this is the secondary as we know. And we'll remove the policy services, and we'll just go ahead now and we'll press submit on that. There can only be no more than 2 nodes with monitoring, so it looks like we've still got the monitoring on the policy admin node. So if we just go back here, and we can look at taking that off. So we can see on the, so we can see we've got secondary for monitoring, so we'll just remove that now that we've got our primary pan in place. So we can take off that, save that, so the policy admin node's just doing administration. Okay, so that's going to start the applications or restart the application server as we know. So we're just going to have to give that a moment because it's going to log us out of the policy primary policy admin node. So we'll have to wait till that comes back now, and then we can complete the adding of the nodes by adding the secondary MNT. Then what we'll do is we'll look at the generating the CSRs for each of the nodes that we haven't. So those nodes that have still got the default self-signed certificate before completing this demonstration. Now that ISE has come back, or the primary policy admin node, we'll just log in again now. And then we'll change the status of what will become the secondary MNT. Okay, so now we'll just navigate back to administration and deployment. And now what we'll do, you can see the ISE PSN that I powered off because I think it was causing some problems within the resource wise within my environment, so I've just powered that off for now, and we'll work, as I said, with the primary policy admin node, secondary policy admin node, and the two MNTs. So I'll register the last MNT now. And this time we should be able to add this as the secondary MNT. Okay, so we'll just repeat those steps that we did previously. So we will remove admin. We'll just keep the monitoring, and this is the secondary node. And we'll take off the policy services. That's then gonna go through the same process as it has done for all the other nodes, in that it will restart the services on that particular device, and it will sync with the distributed deployment. So that's registered successfully. So as I say, it's going to the synchronization, etc. Will proceed once the services have been restarted. So you can see now that we have the primary MNT, or the monitoring node, we have the primary administration node, we have the PSN, which, as I said, is powered off now for this demonstration. We have the secondary MNT, which is secondary monitoring. That one's just synchronizing as we speak, because we've just added that into the distributed deployment. And then lastly, we have the secondary policy admin node, which is, as you can see, secondary. And we can see that those node statuses there, for the most part, are connected. No issues there, as I say, just for the secondary MNT that's in progress as we bring that in. And if we powered on the PSN, that would as well turn back to a green status. So what we'll do now is we will go ahead and we'll take another look at the certificates to see how we can generate CSRs and see the difference in doing so when devices are joined to a distributed deployment as opposed to separately, as we saw earlier. So we'll go to administration, certificate signing request. And in fact, just before I do that, one thing I want to show you is if you click on trusted certificates, you can see that the certificates for each of the nodes that we've added to the distributed deployment are added into trusted certificates. And that's that, if you recall back where you check the certificate before you add it into the deployment, that's where you pretty much confirm this step to add the certificates here. So once we've signed those devices with our CA signed certificate, we can get rid of these because we won't need them. As you can see that they're self-signed certificates. So we just go to CSRs, or certificate signing requests, and as we did before, we will generate a certificate signing request. And notice now under the nodes, as I mentioned before, we can see we've got different nodes where we can generate a CSR for, and that's pretty much all the nodes that I joined to the deployment. So we've already done the primary policy admin node, that's the one we did as a demonstration at the start. So what we can do is we can select the following nodes that we haven't, for instance, and we can go ahead and we can generate certificates for those. So again, I'll just check what we put in the last certificate that we created actually. Let's take a look. So that's the issue is obviously the root CA that we're using. So if we look under subject, we can see that our common name is using the FQDN, so we'll leave that as it is. OU is Network Wizkid. So let's just Network Wizkid, Wizkid demo. That's fine. So let's just do a Network Wizkid, Wizkid demo. Bradford. UK. Okay. And as we did before with the subject alternative name, we can add the DNS entries in there as well. Now that's loaded, we can again select DNS, and in here you can add in the FQDN as well of the actual nodes. So because we have selected all the relevant nodes in the deployment, we can add multiple fields if we wanted to in the SAN, just by selecting the little plus button, so you can see here. Now obviously generating certificates or CSRs for the nodes depends on the way you do it actually depends on organizational requirements. So do make sure if you are deploying this into an environment, make sure that you are in line with the requirements of the organization for the certificate fields. Now in this particular example, you can see how easy it is to add or generate multiple CSRs for multiple devices that have been joined to the deployment. Especially if your certificate fields are going to be the same, which more than likely they are. Things might slightly differ when you get down to if you want to change the SAM fields. So in this particular case, it's probably not useful for us to select each of these devices and at the same time and use a SAN, because we don't really care about adding the FQDN for each of the other nodes into the SAN field. But just for this demonstration, we can just go ahead and we can do that. We can just demonstrate essentially how we can generate CSRs for multiple devices at a time. So we're just going to do run through, so we can do ISE primary monitoring Wizkid.com. I'll just copy this to make it quicker. We can do ISE PSN. We can do ISE secondary PAN. We can do ISE secondary MNT. Now again, this is only for demonstration purposes. I probably wouldn't or I wouldn't use this method in terms of generating the SAN field in a live deployment. Well, let's just go ahead now and generate these certificates, or certificate signing requests rather, and we'll see the output. But again, the way the reason I wanted to demonstrate this was purely because you can see how easy it is to just join all the devices to the deployment and generate certificates afterwards. Even if you do need to come back and say for instance 2 of the devices may have the same information and then 1 of the devices doesn't, you can still it's still easy to do this because you do it all from the policy admin node, the primary policy admin node. Now you may have just seen that error come up saying 1 of the devices isn't reachable. I believe that'll be the secondary MNT, as it may still be syncing. So let's just say for instance, let's just remove that and see if we can generate that again. Certificate with the same friendly name already exists. Which one will that be? Let's just try and remove these SAN fields here. Okay, so it's telling us that a number certificate with the same friendly name already exists. Friendly names must be unique. So let's go out of here. Let's just go to certificate signing request. So we can see we did the there is one for the MNT, so let's just, where's that from? Let's just delete that. I think that may have been the issue, and let's just go back into generate these certificates. So again, we'll just select primary MNT. We'll leave the primary PAN because we've done that. We'll do the PSN. We'll do the, let's just try these ones again. Let's just do a network. Wizkid. It was Wizkid demo. Okay, and again, let's just quickly add in these SAM fields. So we can do ISE primary MNT, we'll do ISE PSN, ISE secondary PAN, ISE secondary MNT. Let's see if we can generate these now. So this is telling us that one of the nodes is not reachable. I think that actually might be the PSN, because obviously that's powered off at the moment. So let's just go back out of here, because the last time I did that it seemed to have generated oops, let's go back to certificate signing request. It's in, yep, so you can see it's run through and it's generated one for the primary monitoring node, and it was trying to generate one for the PSN, but because it wasn't reachable, it's kind of stopped the action there. So again, let's just remove that so we can see the output as we generate multiple certificates. So we'll leave the PSN out, we'll just do primary monitoring. We don't need to do primary PAN. Yeah, that's it. So let's just do that. And that's it. Again, that's just for the purpose of the demo. We'll just add the SAN field for these nodes. So we did ISE secondary monitoring, ISE pan, secondary pan rather, and we also had the ISE primary monitoring. This should let us generate these certificates now. So a few things, so one node's not reachable, so it may be the secondary MNT that's still not reachable actually. So let's just go ahead and generate that, and it might be that it's already generated. Yeah, so it's already generated the primary MNT one again. So you're starting to see how ISE works now. So in the background what it'll do is, as I said, it'll run through these top to bottom, and it'll generate each certificate. So it's generated the primary monitoring node 1, and it's got to where did we say it's got to? Yeah, so you see the list here. So it's got to secondary monitoring, which is probably still not reachable as we just joined it to deployment, and it stopped there because it's realized that the node's unreachable. And it probably did the same as I said before for the PSN, because that's powered off. So let's just try to do it for the secondary admin node and see what we get. That should let us generate the certificate. There we go, so that's done. So we can export straight away from here, or we can just OK and proceed off of it, and it'll take us back to the screen. And there we go, so we can see that we'll just work with these two certificates. I mean, the main purpose was just to kind of highlight how we can, as I say, add multiple devices to a distributed deployment and then generate certificates rather than logging into each ISE node as it's being spun up, generating certificates and then adding certificates before joining it to the deployment. We can actually do it all on the primary policy admin node rather than logging into each of the nodes. So it just makes it a little bit easier. So again, same process with these. We can export these. So you can see there that it's being exported. So we've got two certificates there. So we'll open the first one for the primary MNT. And we'll just open this with Notepad. We'll copy this request. Let's just go back here, and we want to request a certificate, advanced certificates request. Just paste that in there, and again this is going to be a server. We're going to download the base 64 certificate, so that's 5, and we need to do the same with the secondary policy admin node. So again, we'll open this one, we'll copy that one as well. So let's just go back to the start, request this certificate. Base 64, so 5 and 6, we should be able to open them and just confirm. So we can see it's being signed by our internal routes here. For the, in this particular case, this one's for the primary MNT. Got the certificate path, we can check the details, and you'll see in the SAM field here, you see how we've got the DNS entries for each of those nodes. So again, that's not what you would do in a deployment. You typically just have the actual name of the FQDN of the device that you're generating certificate for. You could also leave it and just use the CN. But yeah, I would normally just yeah, you could just leave it and use a CN here. I would just generate a certificate with the SAM field DNS name as well. So let's go back to ISE, and now we can't bind them together obviously, so we need to bind them separately. So we'll do the primary MNT first, bind certificate, choose our certificate, and I think this one was 5. We'll just call this ISE primary MNT, and this is just going to be for let's just use admin on this one, because we're not going to be doing any EP authentication for this. So we'll submit this, and it gives us that warning again to say that the application server will restart. We'll just proceed with yes. And that server will be restarted now. So we'll go back now to CSRs, and we can see we've only got one left now, so we'll bind that one as well, and that one's 6, and this was secondary policy admin node. And again, we'll just use admin on this. We're not doing any EP authentication. That's for the PSN. We're not using any of us in this case, so we'll just go ahead and we'll submit that. We get the same notification just to let us know that services are going to restart on that particular device. There we go. So if we go back to CSRs now, we shouldn't have any CSRs remaining. So you can see there that there's none remaining. So if we just look at trusted certificates, again, what we can do is we can remove, once we've had these devices signed, we can remove these self-signed certificates from the trusted certificate store. Our new certificates will be placed in system certificates. And apologies if you can hear the background noise. That's the servers that we've just assigned the certificates to restarted. So you can see that our certificates are added into system certificates here. Yeah, again, obviously we just added that, so it's not reachable at the moment, so we can't see those yet. But we can see the policy primary policy admin node. We can see that it's being signed by our root CA, internal root CA, and that's applied there. So we just quickly go back to deployment. Just give it a quick refresh. So yeah, you can see that that secondary MNT is still not finished doing whatever tasks it's doing in the background. So we'll leave that one for now. But essentially this is how you configure ISE for distributed deployments. There is a few more steps where you can add obviously more devices, PSNs. You can configure the failover for the policy admin nodes, so automatic failover for the policy admin nodes. You can create node groups, etc. But we're not going to cover that in this video demonstration today. We can also add external identity sources such as LDAP servers to query for authentication, or we can add Active Directory servers. And to do that, we just go to Administration, Identity Management, and then External Identity Sources, and we'll just give this a second to load and I can show you. And once on external identity sources, you can go to, say for instance, Active Directory. Just give this a few minutes to load. So once that's loaded, we can on Active Directory we can add one of our Active Directory domain controllers or servers. And then once we press tab, we get to two options here. So we can give it a join point name, so let's just call it network Wizkid. Let's just do underscore Wizkid AD, and our join point name would be networkwizkid.com. Go ahead and submit that. So as it's loading up now, we get the option, or we get a notification which is asking us whether we would like to join all the ISE nodes in our current deployment to the Active Directory domain. So we're going to press yes for that, and then what we need is a service account, so username and password. So I think, let me just double check. So I've got a service account here set up, so we'll use that, and our username is there, and now hopefully that's the right password. As you can see there, that's completed successfully, so we can close that. The status will update, and as you know, we've not joined any of the other nodes to the deployment. We've just purely joined the primary policy admin node to the deployment, just to show you an example of how you add Active Directory domains or join ISE nodes to an Active Directory domain. We can also verify that, so in here, so under computers, we can see that ISE primary policy admin node has been added as a computer in our Active Directory domain. There's a few other things you can do, so diagnostic checks, that will run through checks of the Active Directory or the communication with Active Directory, to make sure all laws are in line, and it'll flag anything that's not in line. You can test users, that you can reach users different paths within Active Directory. You can leave or choose to take devices out of the domain, you know, etc, etc. So there's a few more things you can do, but that's pretty much out of the scope of, you know, this video demonstration today. But what you can see here is we got the primary policy admin node now added to Active Directory, and it's operational. We can see the domain controller, and these other ones are going to come back as not joined because we didn't join those. So again, that's essentially how we can create a distributed ISE deployment, and how we pretty much start off with the initial or the foundational configurations in configuring certificates for the devices themselves, and we also just did another step where we added the or at least one device to our Active Directory domain. So I hope this video has been useful for you. We have seen a few errors pop up within ISE as well, so hopefully that's been useful for you as well, especially if you're using this for the CCIE security, which is what this video has been created for. You know, you can if you've not got access or cannot spin up a distributed deployment, you know, this video hopefully has give you everything you need to know in order to tick off a couple of boxes for the CCIE security lab. I do recommend, if you can get hands-on with the equipment, whether virtual or physical, then please do so, especially if you are going for the CCIE security lab. But that's all from me, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, please like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. You can alternatively reach out to me on my social media platforms, and please, if you've not subscribed, please give me a subscribe and hit that notifications tab so that you are notified of any new videos that I upload in the future. Thank you for watching.